It's the post-match phone-in. And, we got some good news tonight because the detailed plans for Power Court were approved by Luton Borough Council this evening, which is absolutely tremendous. And it's a nice distraction from everything that's going on at the moment with our season. And with me tonight, as always, for the post-match phone-in, it's my co-host, it's Mark Ryman. How are we getting on, Mark?
Yeah, much better now. I mean, what great news that is for our club, for the longevity and sustainability of our club. And, despite lots of kind of mumbles and groans from us, and rightly so, I think, over the last few weeks, I think the people responsible behind the scenes, great job from them to get this one over the line. What an exciting few years we've got watching that stadium get built. Yeah, I think at times between 2016 and now, it didn't look like it was going to happen, did it? So, yeah, that's absolutely incredible. Now we need to sort stuff out on the pitch, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like this is our long-term future that's secured now, but it's a case of securing the here and now because essentially a 25,000 seat stadium, what are we, Charlton? We can't have like a massive stadium and be playing in League One. So we got to sort out the here and now, and we're here to discuss the Stoke win midweek and then our seventh consecutive loss on the road to Blackburn Rovers, a 2-0 loss.
Yeah. I texted you before and asked if I was allowed to swear, and you said yes. So I'm taking you up on that offer. It's shit at the moment, isn't
That's
it?
mild.
Isn't it, everyone? Well, I would have added an F in front, but I just thought, do you know what? Everyone knows what I mean. That fair play to the 700 odd people that went to Blackburn.
Yeah.
Because, did we really expect much difference? For me, there was nothing in that game that showed me any difference to what we've been seeing. The most optimistic, I think, of away performances was the Norwich one. We've gone backwards again, I think, in terms of system. We didn't show anything apart from the Elijah shot and the follow-up from Chong. I really didn't see anything in that game other than a Blackburn comfortable win. And let's be honest, it should have been 4-0 at half time.
Yeah, it would have been. And we came out in the second half. We actually looked better, but was it a case of Blackburn resting on their laurels? Like, I guess we'll never know. And then the task got even harder because Liam Walsh decides to get his second red card in his short tenure with Luton Town Football Club. What a joke he is.
Moronic.
Yeah.
Moronic. I think it's it's just stupid. The lad clearly doesn't have much about him up there to do that. Anyone debating the red card, just have a look at it again, please. It was atrocious.
Yeah.
It should have been a third. It should have been a third if the referee at Borough had seen the tackle that followed the actual the good one by Baptiste that he booked him for.
Yeah.
It would have been 3 red cards as well. Yeah, it shows disorganised thinking on the pitch, but yeah, you've got to put that one firmly at the door of Liam Walsh. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just but there's tactical stuff there as well. For me, I said it before the game. You have to find a way to get Nakamba in your side away from home against teams like that. Playing a 2-man midfield is just always going to be problematic. And both Krause and Clark struggled to get into that game as a result, I think.
Mm-hmm. But enough of us. Shall we bring in our first speaker? So we have us tonight, we have the one, the only, we have Simon Oxley joining us this evening. How are you getting on this evening, Oxley?
Even Simon.
Hello. Yeah, very well, thanks.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight. And just a quick word about the Power Court approval that happened this evening. That's pretty sensational news for the long-term future of the club, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I'm sure many people listening, like me, will have been able to count and list the number of places we were supposed to have a stadium across Luton and beyond. And this is excellent news. It's been going on for as long as I've been involved covering Luton Town, and longer before that. So it's excellent news. It's excellent news for the town, particularly with the recent Vauxhall announcement. It's hugely important for the whole area, really, to have that sort of facility, because it isn't just going to be for football. There's going to be all sorts of other things going on there, and it's just going to be a great facility. And of course, at its heart will be the football club, and it's hugely important for the long-term future.
Very, very true. It's absolutely sensational. But we were discussing before you actually came on, and Ryman might want to add to this as well. In terms that's our long-term future kind of protected now. But what does I know it's irrelevant regarding our current situation. Like, obviously, you're the one that gets to interview Rob Edwards post match, and following Middlesbrough, you pretty much were in agreement with the rest of us, thinking that was the end of Rob Edwards.
Yeah, absolutely that. I think in the during the game itself, there were, it certainly had to be a more than a possibility because of the nature of that defeat, but it was more so the aftermath and his interview by the side of the pitch at the Riverside, to myself and other radio colleagues and newspaper colleagues. And everything that he said and his whole manner was that he came across as somebody who expected to be leaving. I think we all sort of looked at each other and all drew exactly the same conclusions. There wasn't anybody thinking, well, you never know. I think we all thought that was it. And that was certainly the impression given, and particularly with the international break coming up, because that's historically a time when clubs make changes. So we were certainly expecting something over that initial few days, and maybe even during the course of that first week. But then obviously nothing happened, and the next available press conference was as normal it could have been, down at the training ground. And obviously, he gave his answers, and it's been clear since, certainly in programme notes from Gary Sweet and the chairman as well, without mentioning him specifically by name. It's been very much long-term plan, and no knee-jerk reactions, etc. Now, at what point that outward message changes remains to be seen. If push comes to shove, many would argue that we've got beyond the push and the shove, but let's see how it pans out. From where I'm sitting now, there's a lot of talk, and has been already, and we mentioned it briefly at the end of the interview at Blackburn. Not that was on air in my part, but at the end, we just talked about the transfer window, and I said something along the lines of, it'll be a busy transfer window, although acknowledging, as we all do, that it's not the easiest transfer window to do business. And Rob's comment was pretty much, I think, as it has been to Jeff pre-match, that yes, they've already had talks about it. So it seems to me that they are waiting, looking at the transfer window, and then we'll go again from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I heard your preamble, Simon, before. I think it was before the Swansea game on Three Counties, just seeing how No, sorry, it's before the Stoke game. It was after the Swansea game.
Mm,
Just how things seem to have got to an almost untenable position. I was at the Norwich game, and it was interesting, sort of change of tack from Rob post
mm,
match, and I thought, well, this could well be the start of something, and I felt really that. After that, it sort of dwindled away very quickly, and his post matches since then have been very much of what we were hearing prior to all of this. I don't know whether you've noticed anything different in the last two, but particularly for me, post Swansea, I think his comment, I think to you about, well, fans just want to see 3 points, and clearly not the case. And I thought that was a poor reading of the room, if you like, and it doesn't really help the situation from a fan's point of view. I don't know whether you've noticed anything in particular on that note, really, since then.
yeah, I mean, there have been sort of changes of approach. Coventry was that's on me, that's down to me. It was very much that was the angle post match, and I think I said before, maybe to you guys or in another interview, just this season it's so much different to last season in terms of the interviews are that we have and the interviews that are done are very immediate and almost with us only. I mean, he will sometimes do. There's a club interview as well, but it's nowhere near the. By the time it got to us last season, it was fifth, sixth, seventh time of asking, and it had maybe it was a little more measured, but it's very much from the heart at times, and it certainly was there at Coventry, and then obviously at Middlesbrough, and Norwich again was that was. That was again a different way of looking at it. I'm that's not down to me. I'm going to call these guys out, and unfortunately, things have, for one reason or another, worked out that Tahith Chong was left out for the next game, but has had to play the next two. Would Mengi have been dropped? Well, we'll never know because he had to go in for his operation. So all those, those sort of circumstances, and it seems, I mentioned Mengi's injury there. There's just a lot of things happening at once that just don't. You can look at it in different ways, but you can also, in each one of these things. Amari Bells maybe even Doughty at a stretch because he stayed on the pitch a little longer than perhaps he should have done. You can make a case for all of them being something that could have been handled better or could have been controlled better than they have been, and all that mounts up into the sort of situation we find ourselves in, which is almost going game to game, to be honest, isn't it? I mean, that's the particularly with losing at Blackburn, we're now going to all rock up on Friday, and even by his own admission, I think in the interview with me, because I said to him, look, well, this just means that it puts the pressure on the home games, and he said something along the lines of and we'll be you'll be asking the same questions, and it does because we're back at, well, what if they lose at home to Derby and the home form slips because the away form at the moment, it's you can't see them getting a win.
It all feels really un-Luton like. I mean, not the injuries to central defenders. I mean that is now becoming classic Luton, unfortunately. But just the lack of communication. I don't know whether you think it's the same, but communication, going to games and not seeing. I'm not going to say effort because that's the wrong word, but not seeing us almost fall apart often, or not
discipline.
even look like it.
It's discipline. It's fundamental discipline and tactics.
All of those things, but it feels very.
It's a sort of wholly different feeling. Let's say around this sort of time. I mean, I look back sort of 2 years ago to that sort of Christmas period. The going down to 10 against Norwich and still getting the win, then going to QPR and then going up to Huddersfield and going there thinking, we'll win this. We're playing really well. That it is there is a sort of mental side to it, I guess. But you and I mean that from a player's point of view, not just us, but you were going thinking, we're going to have a right go at this, and it was very difficult, turning up at Blackburn on Saturday, thinking anything other than, well, I don't see us getting much here. Even in that first half hour, you thought, okay, they're holding, but they're not looking as though they're going to take it by the scruff of the neck. And then, Blackburn could have had more than two before half time, really. Once they got that second, you could see a third going, and that would have been that. Yes, it was better after half time, but again, flip side of that is, well, did Blackburn take their foot off the gas? And then, of course, obviously you go down to 10, and that's that. It is a sort of mindset at the moment of going, certainly, away from home, and the next two would probably come into that category. Long away trips. Can we turn it round? Will we have anybody back? It's very difficult to sort of see a way forward at the moment from the away games. Home, it's a different feel, I think. Although at time, it's not been wholly convincing. Stoke was good, but Swansea should have won. Even Hull should have got something. And I say that with all due respect to Hull, but I mean they have. I've followed some of their people on Twitter. The former correspondent who used to work in local radio, and he's been damning in the way they've been playing, and yet arguably they should have got a point. So even the home form has been better in terms of results, but the form hasn't always been there. So it is a difficult place at the moment to know how to move it on. And I know everybody who might be listening might think, well, the first thing to do is change the manager, but I'm still not entirely convinced. I look around and see I'm intrigued. Not so much in the Prem because what's going on there at Southampton and Wolves and whatever, but I'm intrigued by Oxford. I think that's a really interesting one. What are they going to do? Who are they going to get in? Because they're not dissimilar, I would say. Club Oxford would, they've come up from League One. And would just be, you would think, happy to stay up, and would presumably have the best chance of doing that with the guy who's taken them up, and because the fans are right behind him. I find that really interesting to see what other than down at the bottom end, particularly them, because I would equate them at a not dissimilar level, had their time down in non-league, for example, that sort of thing. So I find that as an interesting one to see what they might do.
Yeah, I think we both, Ollie, think that's pretty crazy in terms of the sacking of Des Bucky. I mean, in terms of where their expectations are. But
I was shocked. They're only 2 points behind us as well. It's a shocking sacking. Considering that they've also been decimated by injuries, and their most important player has been injured, and since Sariki Dembele got injured, like that's their form gone. Their form's just off a cliff.
And they played really well at Luton.
Oh yeah,
I thought they were
fantastic.
And I mean that obviously that part of that was that they were made to look very good in some respects, but I think that as well as that, they did actually play pretty well. I thought
their first goal was ridiculous. Sweeping move.
I feel like they had an identity. I feel like the biggest problem here, as you say, there's a differing expectation. I agree with you. Oxford and us have very similar histories, don't we, as well? But I think that we do have different expectations this season, and I don't feel like there is an identity. I feel like Rob has switched and changed quite a lot from what he's promised at the start of the season in terms of style of play, and I think that's not helped the situation.
Yeah, and I think even with the resources that we had, and I did, mention that to him afterwards, that it was the same 11, but it wasn't the same lineup. In that the change to the back
You mean
line.
Hashioka playing left centre back? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
what is the
and
rationale
swapping.
for doing that after Tom Holmes did a good job at left centre back? Daiki
Yeah, I
Hashioka
mean that
has only shown
it
to
changed.
perform at right centre back.
Yeah, I think the change of that three, certainly the wing backs. I think we were expecting Moses to play right side against Stoke, just because he's right-footed, and Chong has played left wing back before. But and then the end they were the other way around, and that worked because Moses. I think they obviously thought Moses would do a better job against Kumas. And even though Kumas did him a couple of times, more often than not, Moses
Well.
coped with him. So whether they switched back this time around, but what it meant was that we had Kozia Dubry up against Chong for some of the time, or down that side anyway, and then taking on Hashioka. But yeah, it was that change of the three, swapping Holmes and Hashioka around, which I mentioned to him, and I forget what there was an answer about. It was effectively horses for courses sort of thing, and how they would, the approach that Blackburn would make and that sort of thing. But I have to say, it was surprising, given that Yoka is right-footed and it's hard enough for him to play right centre half, never mind left centre half. And Holmes has played on that left side, but there was and the explanation was along those lines, I think, but it did seem a strange one.
I mean, it feels as well, doesn't it? A little bit like we keep swapping and changing players. I mean, Hashioka, like you say, is a right back. Ideally, he's played in that position far less times than he's played in other positions. And I get the injuries, particularly in the Premier League, as you pointed out already. But if we want consistency from players, then surely we've got to put them in the right positions as a starting point. I find it baffling. I find the non-inclusion of Nakamba baffling
And
in that
Pelly,
game.
like
As well,
Pelly
if I'm
being
honest, Simon.
completely
Yeah.
excluded, even off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Nakamba, I thought against. Now, when's the last time he played? Swansea. Looked, didn't look himself at all in that. Whether he's struggling with, getting back to full fitness after the knee injury, although Zimbabwe seemed quite happy to play him. But yeah, whether he's struggling with that, I thought against, I think it was the Swansea game that he started and wasn't quite at it. It seemed to me, but he is an experienced player, and in this situation, well, I mean, he's going to have to come into play at some point over the Christmas period, surely. With Walsh now missing, well, have they confirmed 4? I presume it is 4. It normally is when it's your second red and it's a
4.
straight one. So,
yeah,
3 and 1.
But he's a good kid, Simon. He's a good kid. A 27-year-old kid, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said in commentary on Saturday that would probably be it for a lot of Luton fans, as far as he was concerned, because
I'm done with him.
It was second time. Yeah, it's and I said to Rob about first time thing happen, but second time there's no real excuse, and particularly in the nature of the game. It's and again, it's another thing that you just put into the mix, don't you, as somebody who's been signed to come in and do a job, and he's either injured or suspended, and all of a sudden, we start questioning, why he came in the first place, as well as his whole sort of outlook. But yeah, I mean, to go back to Nakamba, he's going to have to presumably feature at some point over the Christmas games, and then that brings us back to Pelly, and when he's just sort of, on the bench rarely. Well, it comes on for 5-10 minutes, and that is an issue, I think, and it's an issue for quite a few of them. Who, I mean, that was as much as we've seen from Woodrow. And in fairness to him, I thought on Saturday he got a few tackles in, and there was a bit more from him.
He did well from right back.
But yeah, they're not getting any sort of any sort of game time. I mean, we debate the merits of reserve team football and the lack of it anymore. But the bench doesn't seem to have any sort of, whatever the opinion is on Joe Taylor, he's not getting any sort of game time in any real capacity. I mean, I don't know if he ever features in some of the under-21 games, that sort of thing, but what you might term a reserve team game now. But
he doesn't. He doesn't play in the under-21s. And
it's difficult.
He's feeding off scraps.
Yeah. As are the front players, full stop. In a lot of cases, that's another. That's we talk about the defence, but the main creative weapon is set pieces at the moment.
That is exclusively where we're getting all our luck from. I'm actually struggling to think off the top of my head where we've actually created a goal from from regular play that hasn't been a second or third phase from a set piece, and it's concerning right now. And obviously with the good news tonight of power courts and all that, that's the long-term future. I'm thinking about the here and now, because there are two absolutes. I hate talking in absolutes, but there are two absolutes I can think of. One, Rob Edwards is going to be here until the end of the season at least, because contractually I reckon there's probably a KPI in there that will be realised at the end of the year, unless the board genuinely believe that Rob Edwards is a managerial genius, which personally I don't see, but they're welcome to believe what they want to believe. And two, having seen every single team in the division now, with the exception of Bristol City, I cannot see three teams that are worse than us. And I'm worried, Simon. And you were around the club in the 90s as well, so you know this journey. And the 90s weren't even the worst ride. The mid to late noughties were probably worse, but you were around during the Lenny Lawrence era. 95, 96, we got relegated from what is now known as the Championship. Like, are you seeing any similarities or any red flags?
I'm trying to think back to that. So that would be, I mean, there was a lot of optimism at the start of that season. And a lot, in Luton terms, a lot of money spent, wasn't there? Under Terry Westley, some of those deals I think were probably in the pipeline whilst David Pleat, in his last few weeks. But obviously Terry spent on, we had Steve Davis.
That was money well spent.
Yeah,
Steve Davis was money well spent. From David Oldfield coming back. I think that was he'd come back then, hadn't he? And so there was quite a lot of new faces in. It was a fresh start, and obviously it didn't work out for Terry and Lenny. It started okay, but then losing Dwight Marshall, etc. So. I mean, I'm trying to the sort of feel around the place. It was, I don't think it was as optimistic perhaps as it was at the start of this season, because we just, this season we'd just come down, hadn't we? And it was we're coming down with a in theory better squad than we went up with. Back then in the 90s. It was a different sort of, I guess, a different time in that you were looking around. I don't know, was it easier to sort of look around from a smaller pool in terms of you were more or less looking at
players from this country, whereas now you're sort of you're being bombarded left, right, and centre with he'll do a job for you from X, Y, and Z, around the world. Whereas back then you would know a lot of the players. You would be familiar with them, or certainly someone like David Pleat would be, because he'd have his little black book out and he'd know them all inside out and back to front. So yeah, it was I think a sort of a different time. But I'm looking at the rest of the division. I mean, Portsmouth we haven't seen for a while. I'm seeing them again on Boxing Day. So they're struggling. Whether they'll stick with Mousinho again, like Buckingham, he's in Oxford. He's taken them up. Will they see it out with him, or will they think they should be doing better? Plymouth seem unwilling to try and get rid of Rooney. I mean, they're good at home, but again, they're I think probably conceding more than we are away.
They are. I think they're backing Rooney though, because they just brought in Mike Phelan.
Yes, they have, haven't they? Yeah, so that would be another sort of throw of the dice there. And then
go on. Name a third team.
Well,
then,
I mean,
Simon.
see what Oxford do. I thought Preston were going to slip back down, but Heckingbottom's got them sort of moving back up again.
A good draw against Leeds, and they should have won.
Yes,
that game.
It was. Yeah. And then Sheffield Wednesday, I had a look the other day, and was surprised. It's like in the Championship, you get 3-game week and wallop there up the table.
Then
whether they'll
pretty in ninth now.
Yeah, they are. If Danny Roll goes, a lot of talk about him and Southampton. If he was to go, then would they slip back down again? But again, we're who knows? It would be a pretty sorry state to be, as you've intimated, to be relying on finding three worse rather than being better than a lot of others. And it's just frustrating, hugely frustrating, isn't it? When you've seen performances. There've been some, digging out a win at Millwall, and
that was a good away performance.
It was. Yeah.
Name the other good performances this season. I can think of 4.
Pompey second half.
Yeah, Pompey.
Pompey down to 10. Yeah. And Watford.
Yeah, Watford was a good one.
It was a good performance.
Sunderland and Stoke. Those are the 4. Sunderland and Stoke.
Yeah, Sunderland at home. Yeah.
It's quite concerning, and I think I'm right to be concerned at the moment. And this window is going to be pretty mega.
Yeah, it is. It's and even and I think when they talked about this equivalent window last season. They in the summer they were talking about how by their own admission how difficult it was. It's such a difficult window because people know your needs and the price will go up. So it is going to be difficult. I think. I mean, hopefully tonight will help, and I don't mean in a sort of distracting way. I just mean that it is some good news that people can get behind and get behind the board with. I think that, Rob sort of first mentioned, I think at Middlesbrough, that he didn't want to become a divisive figure, and I think there are obviously still people who feel they must back him because he's the manager, and you back the manager. Increasing numbers probably aren't feeling that way, and some haven't for a long time. But even those who are normally fairly moderate are going more on the case of needing to change the manager. And my what can't happen, I think I've said this before on air, what can't happen is that we get a disconnect between board and supporters over a managerial issue when we see things like tonight and the work that is being done there, how fantastic that will be, and not a could be, but a will be. I think it's so important to keep that. All that has happened and been built, can't be allowed to be knocked down. And I think that so there will be a point where I think they will have to, make a decision. If it may turn around, but at the moment, as we sit here now, you think there's going to come a point where they're not going to win at home, but they'll still keep losing away. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is what concerns me, really. Sorry, just to bring it back on that one, is that for me, the biggest concern is since Burnley at home, I can't work out what Rob is trying to do. I can't work out what style of football we're trying to play. And I maybe you think this is a bit of a stretch. I could work out what Graham Jones was trying to do. I didn't agree with it. We pass it round the back, give it to Izzy Brown. That was generally the tactic. But it would and lose it more often than not. But I could tell what he was trying to do in all seriousness. I can't tell this season at all what the style of play of we are trying to implement. That's what scares me. It's 16th of December and we're still trying to work it out, or I am.
Yeah, and yes, there have been injuries along the way, but I think that again, going back to Saturday at Ewood Park, just that change of the back three when Hashioka, bless him, as is had a difficult baptism, but he's an international footballer. But to move him to that side and Holmes back, there's you pick the team, and people would understand why. Like at Middlesbrough, you could understand why there were changes because it was a Saturday lunchtime after a Wednesday night. Here, it was a Tuesday night to a Saturday afternoon, so it was a normal, a normal gap between matches. So the same team would have, I don't think, and given the squad available, I don't think people would have raised an eyebrow over the same team particularly. Might question it afterwards if what happened, but it was just that sort of that tinkering for. I mean, he had good reasons, but for everybody else, you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, why is that change being made? But
look, there've got to be answers. Listen, Ox, we're gonna move on to our next caller. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Simon. Really appreciate it.
Before you go, there's a comment here from Dabro20. When we having a testimonial for Simon Oxley, the voice of our game for so long? I'll tell you what, Dabro, the Ox has been around a lot longer than you realise as well. Program editor throughout the 90s as well.
Yeah, I must say I'm enjoying Hatters Heritage, putting up those old programmes. There's some happy memories there. There was one of John Hartson in a tutu the other day, so that was a belter.
I scanned that one and pulled it from the programme. I'm glad you like that. I'm really glad. Cheers, Ox. Really appreciate you, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks. Cheers, Simon.
That was the legend, Simon Oxley. Sorry that we overran so much with that. He is truly a legend of Luton Town Football Club. As I said, programme editor throughout the 90s. And the voice of Luton Town now, alongside Simon Pitts, I would say. When I think of the radio and listening to Luton games, I think of Oxley, I think of Pitts. I can't think of anyone else I think of, really, when there's a game on.
No, it's definitely those two, isn't it? Yeah, definitely. And three counties now these days, especially with the kind of club sponsored interviews for Rob Edwards. Three counties is the go-to to get some actual kind of questions that need answering after some of these games.
I find Simon Oxley's questions are far more penetrative than James Cunliffe's or Mike Simmons because, he's not. He hasn't got that relationship with it. Well, he has the relationship with the club, but he's not like, oh, if I ask this question, they're going to bounce me out of the, of it, and I'm never going to be allowed back in because they have to let him in because he's BBC Three Counties. But let's bring in Simon. Hashtag in Tom Lockie we trust. Sorry about the wait, but you know when Oxley speaks, you got to listen.
That's the second time this season I've come on directly after Oxley, and it's not fair.
It's a tough ask, mate.
Simon.
It's a tough ask.
How am I supposed to follow that? Honestly, come on now. How am I supposed to follow that man? Honestly, I'll be listening to that back tomorrow morning on the way to work.
I know, it's sensational. His voice is great as well. And he's just so knowledgeable about every nook and cranny of Luton Town Football Club as well.
And he's very honest about what he thinks.
He is. And if you cast your mind back to post Middlesbrough as well, I know we're talking about it again. Post Middlesbrough, like all of us, like Oxley's now a fan. He's been a part of the furniture for so long at Luton, covering it from a media perspective, and you know. Also
I grew up listening to Oxley.
Exactly. Well, we all did.
Yeah.
Oxley's been doing it for donkey's years. And even he thought Edwards was going to go. But as I said before, like, two absolutisms. I don't really do absolutisms. I try not to. But Edwards isn't going until the end of the year, even if we lose the next 7, home and away. And, I don't know if there are 3 worse teams than us. Thoughts?
I don't know. Not right now, there's not.
Yeah.
Not right now, there's not. And I said to you, didn't I? I messaged you. I went, look, when I call in, it's going to be rinse and repeat. It's rinse and repeat. I'm saying the same things about this team over and over again. Let's start with something positive, though. Power Core, amazing.
Yeah.
That is such good news. And I'm definitely not someone who gets mired down in, oh, this is crap, that's crap. That's not who I am. I always try to look on the bright side about the good things that are coming, good things that are happening. And Power Core is probably the single most important thing that could happen to our club for the long term. Mm-hmm. Nothing touches it. Not the Premier League. 100%. Nothing. That stadium.
What about League One, mate?
Nah, let's not get on to that. But the stadium itself, it's not just like, people need to realise a thing like that hitting Luton Town Centre is going to bring money into the immediate surrounding area just by existing.
It's going to create.
Town. It'll change. Yeah, it's going to create jobs. Everything is so massive. And as a Luton boy, I love it. My granddad said that it's never going to happen, Simon. That stadium's never going to happen. It's always going to be a fiction. And he passed away in 2018, and he's never would have dreamed it had got to this point. So I'm glad we all get to see this, because it's been decades coming.
Mm-hmm. I'm amazed my dad's going to be around for it. His first game was 1959. Even in 1959, in 1955, in fact, there was a 5-year plan for Luton Town to move stadiums, and my dad's been waiting patiently.
Wasn't that the massive
years.
One? Move
it was meant to be a 65,000 seater stadium.
That's it.
Yeah, I did a video about it. I did a video about it when the Power Court news was announced a few months back. It's funny, but I am thinking I'm going to do a video about every attempted relocation.
You should,
a 20-minute video.
Tell you what, when you try to tell people about the roller coaster that has been getting this stadium built over the decades, it just seems made up, doesn't it?
No, Gary Sweet said, we are the most difficult club to relocate in English football, and probably world football. And I'm inclined to agree. And then they go pick the possibly the worst, the last place you would build a stadium, like on a derelict, contaminated power station. They go build it there, in between 2 railway tracks and road, and next to a Grade 1 listed building, and they've only gone and done it. Like, what the board have done is ridiculous.
It is insane. It's insane the way they pulled it off, and all the day-to-day running of the club and things that are going on aside, they've knocked this out the park. Like, this has just been done to perfection, and I will salute Gary Sweet and all the team behind Power Court and what they've achieved, because it should be applauded.
Yeah, No, 100%. So what are your thoughts about what's going on? Because obviously you can't rinse and repeat, but we'll try and get through all the speakers because they're piling up in the green room again.
I'll just take about 5 minutes of your time today, guys.
Yeah.
Penny, I don't understand the thought process in saying, you know what, Liam Walsh, come on, get on that pitch, son, ahead of Penny in the state we're in. Walsh had a few glimpses early on where I liked. I said, yeah, that looks pretty decent. And then he got himself sent off after 11 seconds, got himself injured, has come back, and then got sent off again after, 11 minutes. Just unacceptable. It's especially in where we find ourselves. You can't be doing that to your teammates. I uploaded that clip of Morris pushing him off the pitch, and it got something, I don't know, 2 million odd views on it. And people saying, "Yeah, go on, that's what you want to see out your captain, etc." Yeah, I completely agree, because he must have been really, really annoyed that Walsh had done that.
He should have sparked him out, mate. Morris should have sparked out Liam Walsh on the pitch then and there.
I'll be surprised. I think Rob will try. If he is down to most people, I think they wouldn't want to see Walsh play again in a Luton shirt.
I don't think we will, mate. But between injuries and suspension, I don't think we're going to see him again.
He can't have more than a 1-year deal.
We're
surely not that stupid.
Yeah. Who knows?
We're surely not that silly.
It came out that Baptiste has a 3+1 deal.
Yeah, I heard that, man, and that was pretty shocking to me because he seems like he's made a glass this season.
You can have one of these types of players that don't play very often, but you can't have two, and then you can't have three.
We've got more than two. We've got Burke as well.
Nah, but Burke is the best defender we have, man.
When he plays.
Yeah, but he had a good run last season. He had a good run.
Yeah, I would say in the defence of the recruitment team, though, Si, Burke wasn't injury prone before he came to us. You could probably blame the fitness team for that.
I'm not down in Burke, by the way. I love him.
Yeah, he's brilliant player. But I'm saying, in the midfield too, you cannot have Baptiste and Liam Walsh. Because and then you have Marv Nakamba, who's not been the same since his injury. And you have Pelly, who's so out of favour, and right away your midfield's weak because your two, I don't want to say marquee signings, but your two ball playing signings, who are meant to step into the breach when Clark and Krause are out. Boom, they're when their legs are working, which in terms of Baptiste doesn't happen very often, and when they're eligible to play, in the case of Walsh, also not very frequent. That's the problem right now.
I want to say one more thing about Pelly quickly.
Go on.
We all know, we hear it, we've heard it year after year after year about how big an influence Pelly is over the dressing room, what a big character he is. And I'm sure he's getting on and being professional because he loves the club. But you've got to wonder, have the players taken his freezing out quite as well?
To be honest, I think shit tactics trumps good vibes.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, man. But, I'm just trying to figure out, because I don't think Penny deserves to have been frozen out quite to the level that he has been.
No. And to be honest, he should be getting a chance, because ultimately what we're seeing time and time again is just the straight ball through the middle every single time. You know what? It didn't happen when we played three in the middle, but Stoke.
You know what? One final thing.
Yeah.
One final thing.
All right, Colombo. Just one more thing. Yeah.
As it's coming up, as Power Court's coming up, I really think that you guys should, try to get some good footage of the stadium going up. Do you have the tools that you need to do things like that?
No, mate. We had a drone, but in the divorce with our former employer, he decided to keep the drone that we paid for.
Wow, that seems very
we don't.
Such a stir.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I missed the drone. But fortunately, Deggy's doing great work with drones.
Man. Deggy does some amazing content.
I think he
And
drove his
Gaiman
drone
himself.
into a
So check
tree,
him out.
though. Deggy can confirm, but I think he smashed his drone into a tree and had to buy another drone. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I love that guy. Anyway, I'll let you guys get on to the next caller.
All right,
Because this is
cheers.
turning into a
Cheers,
long
Si.
episode.
Yeah, I'll catch you soon, mate.
Cheers, Si.
Nice one, guys.
All right. Right. So we have Optimistic Hatter next. A bit of We'll go over to stateside. We had some great comments here as well. Before we get to Optimistic Hatter, some great comments here.
I saw some good questions up here as well, just mentioning managers who would take on people like that. I've seen a couple of options being mentioned. That now that Southampton have parted ways with what's his name? Completely forgotten his. Yeah, Russell Martin. I've mentioned that maybe we should take him. Can you imagine these players trying to play Russell Martin football? Blimey.
I'll quote Mark the Hatter. I'd rather eat my shoes. I'd rather eat your shoes after you've taken a massive shit in them. Because there's no way we are. There's no way.
Kenilworth Road.
Exactly. There's no way we're getting Russell Martin. No way we would want Russell Martin. But as I say, Rob Edwards is going nowhere. Simple as. He's not.
Yeah, well, I mean,
some wonderful messages here from Debro20. Remember Ian Pearce on radio? Remember Ian Pearce? Yeah. Tremendous broadcaster. Wonderful. And Brian Swain as well. Brian Swain was sort of at the end of Brian Swain was at the beginning of our time at the club. Brian Swain was a man in the know. He was a sensational journalist and writing in I looking through all the columns from the 90s in my role for Hatters Heritage, and honestly the stuff he was writing about was amazing, and you just can't imagine that insight from a program these days. Like, it's not worth the £4. It really isn't.
No, some great journalists in there, definitely. But like you said, mid-90s time we started following Luton, but there was nowhere near the coverage, and particularly you had to rely on really just a couple of commentaries, 3 counties, etc., and then you obviously ended up with Club Call, and then Pitsy joining. Well, for us at least as a commentator was more the non-league days, wasn't it?
Diverse FM.
That's Diverse FM. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, let's bring in Optimistic Hatter, and then we have Ash, and we might be able to finish by 10. We'll see. Christian, long time no speak. How are we getting on, mate?
Not bad. Not quite sure when the last time I've been on one of these was, but
well, you've been busy with your commentary overseas, haven't you?
Yeah, I have done 37 events in the last 4 or 5 months, whatever it's been. 23 of them have been soccer matches, so quite a bit of exposure to having to do the broadcast inside of soccer, but or association
it's
football.
Called football, mate. Yeah.
Right, football. Yeah, fine, football. No, but I've been good, and of course today a very good day. Finally, after 69 years, Luton Town is finally going to get a new stadium to replace Kenilworth Road.
It's going to be a few more years, mate.
Well, yes, it's going to be a few more years, but now it's actually going to happen. It's no longer just a pipe dream of various people running the club. It's actually going to happen, which is good. Also, your Walt drone, you guys paid for that, and then you guys didn't keep it. That seems a little bit messed up.
Yeah, we won't get into that. No, it was delivered to my former employer, and it was never sent on to me.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's been kept for all the drone footage. Keep an eye out on Walt, because there'll be tons of drone footage. Probably, who knows? Probably not. But never mind.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting week, winning 2-1 to open up during the midweek, and then getting, I don't want to say hammered, but that definitely should have been more than just 2-0. Blackburn were by far the better team. on Saturday.
Mhm.
In fact, we only lost by 2. I think it's a minor miracle. But I thought in the midweek, maybe, just maybe, things were going to start turning around. Rob can get things going again. And then you have Saturday happen. And it's destroyed all confidence that midweek kind of built up for me. I'm firmly in the camp of, at some point you got to wave the white flag and appoint somebody new.
We've been waving
And I
the white
think
flag
that-
all bloody season, mate.
We have, but
Especially in defense.
but I'm squarely in that camp. I'm not one of those that's, stick by the manager. He'll do what's right, because the fact of the matter is we have the second or third best squad in the championship, and we're sat 19th, 18th, 4 points ahead of the next closest club. But it's the fact that the relegation zone is literally right there, and we should be fighting for playoffs, not fighting to survive.
Yeah.
Completely
agree there.
The January transfer window is probably not going to do enough. I think at best we'll finish mid-table, and at worst we go down. And in League One, you're earning 10% of the TV revenue. The parachute payments don't mean squat, really.
Well, because the first parachute payment is paid at the end of this season, so 70 mil, that will help. But we're gonna have to have a fire sale. All the big earners are gonna have to go. I don't even want to think about League One right now, but League One, like Gary Sweet said, League One in the 2019-2020 season, when we were first season back in the Championship after a decade, Gary Sweet said relegation to League One would be financially catastrophic. I looked up the article earlier today. Now, if he's saying relegation to League One would be financially catastrophic in the 1920 season, Lord knows what it would be with the wages we have now, because our wage bill is probably 10 times what it was in the 1920 season.
Yeah, I mean, and that fire sale is not going to put the club in any better of a position. If you have to get rid of all your top earners, you have to replace them with somebody. And as we've seen in the last few transfer windows, the club doesn't exactly have the best plan when it comes to replacing people. I mean, we literally replaced 2 of the best midfielders in the Premier League last season with Shannon Baptiste, who, injuries, that sucks. But then Liam Walsh, who we're gonna be nice to him just for a moment, not say the things we want to say, but he needs to not be at Luton Town. He just needs to not be at Luton Town.
Sadly, he is.
Sadly, he is, but he needs to not be.
What about, you mentioned in windows. But yeah, the last 2, arguably 2, 3 have been underwhelming. I actually think the summer one before going to the Premier League, in a lot of ways was some good business, but we needed a bit more depth if we really were serious about competing. But we've gone from a club who I think had a really good solid plan about how to get us moving forward in the Championship. The problem is we achieved what we aimed to achieve. I think that was the biggest issue that we had with all our plans, is we actually got there. But that obviously isn't the end of the story. And then it's like, well, now what? We're there. We've got money to spend. And that's where the issues have hit. The 2 big problems, of course, of the summer, as you've said, Christian, in the January transfer window in the Premier League, they were the 2 big ones, where we just couldn't adapt to a new market that we had to shop in, and that's still the case now. So we had great plans in place, but unfortunately they were so good that we got what we wanted, and then we didn't plan after that.
One of my mates, sorry, Christian, just before that, adding on to what Mark said, one of my mates said to me, when Darbo missed that penalty, they should have just folded the club.
Okay, well, we're not Derby in what was it, 2007, when they got promoted, where their manager actually did go on record and saying basically that, but we're not them. We actually scored more than 11 points, unlike what some people thought we would. But it's difficult to recruit players when you're not willing to spend money, and that's obviously apparent when undisclosed fees kind of get figured out, and that range is a couple £1 million. I mean, that's fine if you're a high League One club, but at the beginning of the season, we should have had aspirations to go back to the Premier League, and the fact that we just blatantly refuse to spend anything more than £5 million and on any one transfer isn't going to get us there. Not anymore. We're at a point where teams are going to ask for more money from us because they know we have the money, and we need to be willing to spend it.
That's a good point. The price is the price, though, and I don't think it's the fees that are the problem. I think it's probably the agents, the fees demanded by agents, because it's really weird. The buying club has to pay the agents. Like normally they just take a cut of the fee from the selling club, like an estate agent. It's the person selling that pays the fee to an estate agent in the UK at least, and but in English football, you got to pay the player signing on fee and the agent fee from the buying club. But c'est la vie. That is the beautiful game. Christian, we're going to try and get Ash in before we finish up for the evening.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Appreciate getting to be here.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Cheers, mate. Appreciate you. Right, should we bring in Ash to round us up? Ash, good evening, mate. Let's keep it really quick because we're overrunning as it is. But good evening. How are you getting on, mate?
I just wanted to say you do an excellent job again, both of you.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
mate.
Well, was it good hearing the Ox?
Yeah, Ox was brilliant. I remember him in 1990 talking about Watford back in the day, how Watford were like. They were doing better than Luton. He was like telling us, and
how times have changed.
Yeah, like back in the day, he was telling us that Watford are doing better than us, and all of that. So I do remember all of that. But yeah, I just want to say it's a great news about Power Court.
It's wonderful,
great
isn't
news.
it?
Yeah, because obviously that will help. But like you were saying before, the stadium, it will make us stronger. But if we don't have the fans, we're going to have an issue, aren't we? If we get relegated this season.
I think people will come by virtue of the fact that it's a brand spanking new stadium. Like fans will come back, and tickets might be that much cheaper as well because we can get a lot more people in. So I think it will be good, but I think we do need to be second tier at the least to fill 75% of it.
I think that,
and we gain all the revenue, which
I just want to talk about the manager. I think the chairman is going to keep him on, and then they'll probably get new players in. I think they'll get rid of all the players on the bench and get new ones in. But they're going to have. I think
that's a lot. That's a lot of movement for a January transfer window where agents' fees are notoriously at their highest.
Yeah, but I think there's going to be some change in January. Otherwise, I think that the fans will, won't probably turn up.
Well, that happened. I actually tweeted about it for the Stoke game. I looked around, and I put a picture online of me reclining across 4 seats. I had virtually a whole row to myself, and there were seats in front of me, behind me, and the official number said 10.5, but there couldn't be more than 8,085 there.
That's
who's going to end up going to Ashton Gate on Boxing Day at this rate if this carries on? Who's going to make that journey down?
He's a very lucky manager. Like, I think we will beat Derby. We will beat them because he's very clever. He's a very, very smart manager we've got here. He knows how to get something out of the players. But I think the ones who are not his favourites, like Pele, and I think Taylor. But you can tell you're 100% right. They're not getting any game time. So how they're going to get that match sharpness is a problem in the games. Yeah, but I think I think Derby they will win. He's a very lucky manager, and he will just continue until January. And I think maybe there'll be some players will go, and we get some new players in. But it is going to be a bit nail biting to the end of the season. I think it'll be, if you get what I mean, you know, because there'll be new players in, and it might. Hopefully, those players might play well. We just don't know. I would just think it'd be better, like I said before. You know what I'm going to say, isn't it?
Yeah, throw a bucket of water over them.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I read it at the start of the season. But all I'm saying now is all we can do now is just hope that some of the players get sold, maybe, and get some new fresh faces. But he is a very lucky manager. You both know that.
Yeah.
How can no other manager can get away what he gets away with?
Any other club in the 72, in the 92, in fact.
Yeah.
These results, 7 straight away losses.
Yeah,
you're getting canned. Ash, thank you very much for joining us. We've overrun. Sorry that we've overrun. We had the Ox on, but thank you very much for joining us, mate.
Yeah, take care and have a great week. Enjoy Friday.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Cheers.
Thank you. Mate. Bye.
So yeah, sorry to everyone that we overran. Let's just round up some comments, shall we, that are here. So from Editor Kate, we should have cleared out when we got relegated. That's a very good point. All these players have known for years losing. Like, look, Sheffield United did it. They cleaned house.
All clubs do it. Yeah. All clubs do it when they come down.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way you got to do it.
Yeah. Debro 20. I'm loving your comments, mate. Like every single comment's like a throwback. We still miss Tom Lockyer, the run through brick walls mentality. We have Warriors under Nathan Jones and players that were either too old or not good enough for the Premier League. But boy, yeah. Now you're saying we could do with some of the players like Matty Pearson. I don't know about Matty Pearson. I was never a big fan, but you need some of that, don't you?
It's the attitude, though, isn't it? And I completely get his point. It's the other reason why Pelly's missing. But yeah, I mean, Lockyer, his missing, him being missing from the squad gets more and more telling every day, doesn't it?
Yeah, but, I know. I don't think he's going to come back though. But yeah, we should wrap this up. A big shout out to Tyler from T-Boys TV. Watch this back, mate, because we're just wrapping up here. We had a great chat with Simon Oxley. What a legend Simon Oxley is, and thank you, Mark Ryman, for joining us as well. My co-host, the Batman to my Alfreds. I serve you, mate.
That way round. Yeah. And I'm just looking at Kate's comment. I'm really sorry if I did drone on. All right, I'll shut.
It's all right. Oh yeah, Tyler from T-Boys. Sorry about your mic, mate. Tyler got kicked out because of a microphone. Hilarious. I love that video of you outside, like calling them bumlickers and stuff. It was very funny. Go check out his channel. You see a short of Tyler literally getting kicked out of Blackburn for having a microphone. But as always, if you're watching this on our YouTube, thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And we go to Friday night under the lights against Derby, and we'll be back, won't we, Mark? With got a match preview and all that. So everyone, have a great week and take care all.